welcome to the My Father Said podcast, where we discuss all things faith, finance, and family. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan. I'm both a father and a son.
And I'm Robert. I am Ryan's father, and I am my father's son as well.
We're so happy you're spending your time with us today. Today's topic, we wanted to share with you guys the most common pitfalls we find when individuals are making their way down the journey to financial freedom. And so with that being said, Dad, why don't you start us off?
I certainly will. You know, our podcast is based on faith, family, and finance. And we always like to bring in the Word of God as it relates to financial practices. And whereas some of the verses we use do not necessarily use financial jargon or doesn't necessarily speak directly to finances, it is speaking about the mental practice of how we go about our day-to-day lives. And as individuals, one of the things we do is we manage money every day out of our everyday lives. So there's a passage in the Bible, it's Proverbs 27, verse 23, and it reads, "Be sure to know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations." That particular passage, when it uses the word conditions of your flocks, basically we use this in finances that we should know the condition of our money. Because flocks and our money, they would be simultaneous in what we're doing and the message we're trying to convey. That passage says to us to give careful attention to our herds. That is not a passing glance. That is not a ever so often I gaze over to the left to see what's going on. The careful attention is an intentional, deliberate, meticulous study of my monies and my finances and what is going on. And that is something that every prudent investor will do. Even our survey from our millionaires that we had in our area, they even spoke about the deliberate act of staying on top of their money.
Yeah.
And that's how they got there. Now, the passages, they emphasize the importance of being attentive to one's resources, but it also talks about planning for the future. So today what we're going to talk about are the pitfalls of people not reaching financial success. We're going to touch on several topics. It's going to be a pretty fast-paced podcast, I believe, today. Yep. Might even have some fun, might laugh a little bit, and might even tell some stories along the way, but let's have at it.
Pitfall number one, having kids. How much did Ethan and Ryan cost you?
That was not...
If you had to put $1 on me and Ethan, what would it be?
You know, that was not in the script. That was absolutely not. Your mama would say, you haven't cost us a dime. On the other hand...
Yeah.
I would say we're still paying for you. I would say that. Pitfall number one, in actuality, for everybody, is lack of a clear financial plan. If your glasses are muddy, you can't see where you're going. If your eyes are shut, you're going to bump into the wall or walk off the edge of a cliff. You've got to clean the lens, you got to open your eyes, and you've got to make a decision that I want to get somewhere at a certain time, utilizing whatever it is I'm utilizing. In other words, one of the primary reasons individuals do not reach their financial destination that they would like to have is because they have failed to create a comprehensive financial plan that includes things of budgeting, saving, investing, and debt management. They wake up on a Monday, they meander through Monday, and the next thing you know, a year of Mondays has passed by and they've done nothing. They haven't done anything to get a plan together, devote themselves to it, follow it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the first big pitfall. You know, you kind of hit on every bit of it. The solution to that is to have a plan. Work with someone that does the planning, set up a budget. We talk about determining what your number is, figure out how much I'm going to live off of with still enough to be able to put away for tomorrow. So those are the big solutions: is work with a plan, have that budget, make it clear, concise. The plan revisit it. It's not a one and done thing, kind of like we were talking about with the flocks. That's not a passing glance, okay, they're still there. That is a thorough, in-depth looking, are we still on track? Do we need to make any adjustments?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another pitfall is living beyond your means, or spending more than you make, or trying to keep up with the Jonesins. Overspending and living beyond a person's means always, without exception, leads to debt and financial instability. You cannot do like our government and spend more money than they're bringing in. You and I don't have a money printing machine at our home. Our producer, Scott, does not have one at his house. No one that I know personally, they wouldn't tell me if they did, has a money producing machine at their home. We cannot spend more than we make and expect to stay in the house. Yeah. We're eventually going to be evicted. And unfortunately, what we find is another one of the things that happens with an individual who is unable to meet their financial goals is when you look at their spending relative to their income, they are upside down. They are upside down.
Yeah, so living beyond your means or living beneath your means, that is a very common phrase that, honestly, I've heard my whole life. You've probably heard your whole life, and your grandparents probably heard their whole life. You can't stretch a dollar. You can't stretch a penny. So when we talk about living beyond your means, that is, I make $100, I have spent $100, and worse off, I have gone and gotten a credit card or something with debt. So now I've spent all my money and I've got a debt obligation. I have legitimately spent more money than I have.
Absolutely. You can't do that. You can't do that. Another pitfall, ignoring emergency savings. Whenever we're spending more than we're making, it is impossible for us to even have any dream or desire or any idea of success about having an emergency fund. We're going to have a tire blowout. We're going to have a radiator go bad in our vehicle. We're going to have a dishwasher go out or the washing machine go out. Something unplanned is going to happen. And when something unplanned happens and there's no money set aside to meet it, then where's the money going to come from? Yeah. Well, it's going to take away from some other obligation that we're already at. And if we don't have an emergency fund set aside, then what we're doing is we are now accumulating debt because we don't have enough money to meet our monthly obligation, much less the emergency. So we always encourage our clients, let's make sure that we have some sort of emergency fund set aside that we can meet these things, not if they happen, but when they happen.
I got two questions off of that. My first question, and we'll come back to this one in a minute, is how much should we have in an emergency fund? But my second question, and I want you to answer this one first, why does an emergency fund even matter? When my tire does blow out, why can't I just go get a credit card and use that to pay for the tire?
Oh, God, who is this kid?
I'm asking for a friend, not me.
Okay. Debt. Bad debt destroys a financial future. If the individual is living in such a manner that they cannot get the cash to pay for the tire, that they've got to go put it on MasterCard or Visa. There's a reason why they call that credit card MasterCard. It's because it becomes your master. And it expects its payment every month, and it's going to charge the living daylights out of you in interest. You're never going to get ahead if you're living that way, if you're carrying these balances moving forward. So you want to have 6 months living expenses set aside. Now, living expenses is not income.
Right.
Living expenses is my groceries, my gasoline, my light bill, my water bill, things such as that, my utilities, whatever they might be. What does it cost me if I'm out of work? How much money should I have set aside that I can fall back on in an emergency as I look for new employment elsewhere?
Yeah. Another thing about that emergency fund, and this is very specific to your situation and what things look like, is having enough for deductibles God forbid you get into a car accident, and then you've got a medical deductible you have to satisfy, and then a vehicle deductible to satisfy. So when you're looking at your emergency fund, you do want to take into consideration the 6 months of expenses, but then also, depending on what that deductible is, you might want to have that added on top of it as well. God forbid you have some kind of catastrophic event.
Absolutely. Think of this too. Let's say you have 3 vehicles in your yard, and it's just a bad month for you. And all 3 of your vehicles sometime in that month have been involved in a fender bender. Oh. That's not one deductible.
No, that's 3.
That's a bad month.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Another pitfall that we see is neglecting investments. Now, I'm going to expound on that a little bit. Neglecting investments, that is as simple as I started late, I'm not investing, or when I do invest, I'm failing to diversify. All of those things would be a pitfall when it comes to investing for the financial future. The biggest thing we have on our side as investors is time. It is not the correct stock. It is not the perfect mutual fund. It is not timing the market. The biggest thing we have on our side is time between now and retirement, time between now and when I decide to pull that money out. And if you are not taking advantage of the time right now, you are really hurting yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice, and that is something that will take years to make up. So that's a big pitfall. And then when you are investing, putting all your eggs in one basket, that is a phrase that we hear all the time. When you think about diversifying, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want to have them spread out. And the reason we want that is because the market goes through cycles. It's got times where the market is doing well, and we love that time because everybody's making money, right? But inevitably, there's always going to be time as well when the market is going down. And when, not if that happens.
Wait a minute. Did you just say the market goes down?
I did say the market goes down.
Well, now, I was never told that.
I just pay attention. Just look at anything, you'll see it. So the market will go down. And so if you have got all your eggs in one basket and the market goes down, you're really going to feel that. So when you go to invest, you want to diversify so that when those downturns come, you've got kind of a safety net or a shield up against it, depending on how you're invested.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Solutions to that particular pitfall. Obviously, we want to learn about the different types of investments. I mean, there's mutual funds, there's stocks, there's options, there's margin, there's CDs, there's bonds, there's muni bonds. There's all types of investments. And these investments, when married together appropriately, can make a firm foundational approach to reaching your goals. Whereas if you maybe go too narrow, okay, you can go too narrow. If you decide that, hey, I've got $700,000, and this guy over here at this other broker dealer place told me that, when you reach a certain age, you qualify and you should be going more narrow. Run from them people. Run from them as fast as you can. They are not giving you good advice. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you have diversification for the ups, the downs, the 4 sectors of a market cycle. You want to make sure that you're properly exposed for that. And if you're not paying attention to your investments, you could find that you are focused over in one corner while the world's getting beat up, and you're just getting tore up from that particular thing. So you want to make sure that you are staying on top of your investments, stay diversified. You don't have to have 1,000 different investments, but you got to be diversified towards your stated objective. It doesn't matter what your neighbor's doing. It doesn't matter what your coworker's doing. And it certainly does not matter what somebody sitting on my side of the desk is doing. You, as the client, it's your money. At the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, it's your money. You state to us what you want to have your money to do. We build the portfolio, and we do it based on your objective. We don't chase the market. We chase the objective.
Yeah. And that ties into one of our earlier points of having a clear financial plan, right? So you have a clear financial plan. You have your investments allocated towards that plan. And then that leads into the very next one, which is another pitfall, which is failing to educate yourself. So, I have a goal. I want to get this goal accomplished. How do I need to invest it? Obviously you can work with an advisor, but you can also educate yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many resources today that you can just dip your toe in, or you can dive in head first, and it will give you a lot of information, a lot of good, solid information. One of my favorite websites is investopedia.com. Scott, my producer, I don't know if we're allowed to say that without a copyright, but that's a place that's a place that we and this is our podcast, Scott. Don't be trying to butt in on it like this. But
Investopedia should be paying you.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Investopedia.
But
Sponsored.
yeah. But places like that you wanna look for and get information. Ryan and myself, we're great resources to gather information in, but I want you to understand, and we're just going to give you full disclosure, we have a reason. We want you to be our client. We want to earn an income. But I want you to also understand that there is a lot of information out there to be had. Take it, read it, get a foundational knowledge, and then come bounce it off of someone like us, and let's see if we are always agreeing with what you're saying, or if we're always trying to maybe challenge the school of thought to get you to broaden your horizon, your focus, and to go further. It's like a great professor in school. Can you remember when you sat down in front of a teacher and that teacher just lit up your enzymes? You were ready to just jump up and down and learn because they were feeding you information that you were hungry for. That's the way it should be whenever you're working with an advisor. Hey, I want to learn more, and I'm being challenged. What I am thinking and what my preconceived notions are being challenged. I'm being stretched. One of my professors in seminary used to say that we were being stretched. So I would say to you that you want to be stretched. Educate yourself. Do it every day.
How'd you do in that class where you were being stretched?
I passed.
Well, how well did you pass?
I passed. I got out. Next question.
So another pitfall we see, and we kind of already hit on this with the living beyond your means, is high consumer debt. And we specified consumer debt for a reason. Housing and shelter, that's necessary. You're always going to need that. I don't know very many people in today's market that can go out in cash and just buy a house. That's not a lot of people. So getting a mortgage to provide that for you and your family, that's not detrimental to your plan, right? Whereas that wouldn't be a consumer debt. Whereas a consumer debt, something like high interest student loans, high interest car payments, high interest credit cards, all of those can be and will be detrimental to your plan. So, you made the comment very, very briefly earlier. You said bad debt. There's bad debt, and then there's, I wouldn't go as far as to say good debt, but maybe necessary debt, such as a mortgage, something like that. But high levels of that high interest consumer debt, that can derail a plan, because you can put money in the market and try and get an 8-10% return. And that's doable. That happens, but it's so hard to consistently get 16% that a credit card might be charging you. So that's one of the big pitfalls we see as well.
That's exactly right. I want to speak on something you just said, though, about the mortgage. So what we recommend is that your mortgage, we need a place to live. We need a place to live. So we recommend that if you've got to get a mortgage, that your payment not be more than 20% of your monthly income.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we don't want you to make $4,000 a month and your mortgage is $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
There's no time for anything else, and you certainly can't invest any money either. So with the mortgage, we want to make sure we put that out there. Let's not go more than 20% of your monthly income.
Yeah, there's matter of fact, the listeners out there, something to remember is the acronym PITI, P-I-T-I. That 20% that you were talking about, that is the principal of the mortgage, the interest of the mortgage, property taxes, homeowners insurance. All of that combined, we don't want that to be more than 20% of your take-home pay. So just to clarify.
Did you just make that up?
No, I did not.
Really?
That is from my CFP education.
Really? Pity.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's
PMT,
pretty
yeah.
good. So with the debt, we want to make sure we pay off high interest debt, avoid accumulating new debt whenever possible, and look at strategies to combine debt, streamline debt, keep trying to get that interest rate down as low as you can, get the emergency fund built up so that you don't have to utilize debt, and start putting your money towards your fun objectives. Let's accumulate monies for the future. So another thing, and this is one that a lot of people do not like to talk about. This is neglecting insurance coverages. And I'm going to speak in particular about life insurance. And the reason I'm going to do this is because most people don't like to speak about life insurance because for some reason, and I don't understand why, people associate life insurance with dying. Can you imagine that? I mean,
A little bit.
I just can't fathom that idea. Life insurance is for the living because I got life insurance on me. I die without life insurance, you and Ethan are going to share your mama. She's moving in with you guys if I don't have life insurance. But if I die and I leave life insurance for your mom and I leave adequate life insurance for her, she is able to maintain the home. She's able to maintain the lifestyle. She's able to without me, she's able to live her life as she was prior to my leaving this earth. For people who will not get life insurance for the people who are depending on them and their income, that is the most selfish, irresponsible thing any man or woman can do to their family. Now, I might have just lost a lot of listeners out there following me, but I am convicted of this. If you as a man are more concerned with, well, I don't want that man living in my house, you're dead, dummy. You're not going to be there. Let your wife and your children have a place to live in. And if the woman is more concerned, well, you're not going to put some woman in my house, you're an idiot. You're dead. You're not even going to be thinking about it. So there's my rant on life insurance.
That's the Robert I grew up with. There he is. That's good. Yeah, no, that's my father said. He literally said that. No, so some of you out there, that may have come off a little harsh, but the heart behind it is a little bit, maybe a little bit.
Now, I thought that was gentle.
It's gentler than I've heard you say it in the past. I think it's still a little harsh. But the heart behind it is, if you are charged, again, we're believers here. If you are married and you have children and God has charged you with the care of your spouse and your children, and you do not care enough about your children to have life insurance in place to keep the standard of living for them, that's hard. That's hard. That's Scripture even talks about that a little bit. Somebody who doesn't care for their family is worse than a non-believer. But
isn't that what I just said?
Yeah, but you said it a little bit worse. You're dead. You're stupid, dummy. I didn't say any of that.
Did I say that really?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
Yes.
I don't remember that.
But so with that being said, though, that's life insurance. That's the big one that we always think about. The other one, and this probably goes without saying, you're going to want to have health insurance in the event something happens. You're going to want to have property and casualty insurance. Do not be driving around without insurance on your car. That is illegal, so don't do that. But another one that people a lot of the times fail to realize that is a necessity is like an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy, well, why don't you tell them what an umbrella policy is?
I have no idea.
Okay, great. Your financial advisor doesn't know what an umbrella policy is. No, an umbrella policy, that is over and above the limits that you have for your property and casualty. So your vehicle and your home, stuff like that. If something were to happen, God forbid you were to get in a car wreck or someone at your home was to get hurt pretty bad, the umbrella policy steps in and goes above and beyond up to a stated amount where they will actually pay on your behalf. Umbrella policies are relatively cheap comparatively, and they're a big need, especially if you have got any assets whatsoever that you are trying to protect in the event something were to happen, like someone to get hurt on your property, or God forbid you get in an accident and someone pass away. So those are all big pitfalls we see with insurance.
Good deal. Another pitfall, procrastination, lack of discipline. These two combined together in your financial habits will delay progress towards reaching your financial goal. We see so many people who do not take advantage of the greatest asset that you mentioned just a moment ago, which is time. Mm-hmm. There's numbers out there that shows that if an individual will start in their 20s setting aside $100 a month, that the money they accumulate when they reach 60 it's just an incredible number. But what's even more incredible about that is that it took very little money to reach that incredible number, whereas the person who waits in their 30s, well, they've got to do more to get to where the 20-year-old was at. The person in their 40s has got to do significantly more. The person in their 50s has got to do astronomically more. Mm-hmm. And the person in their 60s is probably just not going to make it happen.
That's right.
Procrastination is a destroyer when it comes to accumulating wealth. You can't wait. You cannot wait. If you can afford cable television, cancel your subscription, because nobody in Hollywood gives a rip about you. They don't know your name. So instead of making their pockets wealthy, put it back in your pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. There are you could do a quick Google search on that very topic that you were talking about, starting out young versus waiting 5 years versus waiting 10 years. It is so much easier to walk along that journey to financial freedom if you start sooner. You start out at a walk, and then if you're disciplined with it, you can walk your way to retirement. But if you start in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, you are having to sprint the whole way there, and that's where a lot of people get burned out. So that's great. So the solution there is just start often, or start early, and then just keep doing it.
Absolutely. Another pitfall, and we're nearing the end of these things, but another pitfall is overlooking tax planning. Mm-hmm. Now, most people do not care about going to sit down with their tax preparer or their CPA. They think those guys have a pencil stuck in the ear. They got glasses on. There's a desk full of papers, and, they're old and musky smelling, and they just have this vision that, these guys are boring. I want you to understand, if you're trying to accumulate wealth, your tax professional can be your best friend, can be your best asset, more than me, more than Ryan. They can be your best asset. Form that relationship. They can help you not pay as much in taxes than what you're currently paying legally. And the money that you would have been using to pay in taxes, you can redirect to your goals and help get there a little bit more.
Yep. And one huge glaring fact that you left out is, if you listen to what they say, they'll keep you out of prison, because if you don't pay your taxes, you will go to prison. So that's another thing. We won't keep you out of prison. We can just help you with your plans. CPA, they can help you keep out of prison. So that's another thing. So our solution to that, right, with the tax planning, get yourself a CPA. I know there are some people out there that are do-it-yourselfers, and if you wanted to do your taxes for a little while when you're younger, that's fine. But when you start to get older, you start to get assets, the income increases, you start having multiple dependents, multiple people in your household. A CPA is not a good thing. A CPA is a necessary thing. You're gonna need that, because they are going to be able to save you money in different areas that you didn't think of. But I mean, that we here at the Templeton Group cannot recommend enough getting yourself a tax professional to help you with all of that. Absolutely.
And if you don't know one, we have professionals that we work with. We'd be more than happy to make that introduction for you.
Yep. And then the last thing, which we kind of talked all the way around, is based off of your situation, relying on one or both of the spouse's income. So what we mean by that is, We talked about emergency funds. We talked about determining your number, figuring out how much to set aside for retirement, stuff like that. Some stuff starts to shift around when it goes from, hey, both spouses are working to just one spouse is working. For example, we'll see some individuals, young professionals who are working, they've got a good job, maybe not necessarily a stable job, but they're making good income, and they've been told their whole life, hey, I need 3 months of expenses saved up for my emergency fund. Well, in that situation, they probably need more along the side of 6. And the reason being is because if they lose their job, they don't have another income coming in the house. Also, if, let's say there's 2 of you in the home and both of you are working, both of you are in a sales position, something like that, where you don't have a salary coming in, even in that situation, you probably want to have more than more than 3 months set aside in the event that something happens. So that's also something to think about. These are not hard and fast rules for everybody. When you start getting into both spouses are working, one spouse is working, one spouse is working but makes significantly less than the other one, all of those things start to play a fact on, how much should we have set aside? How much should we put in away for retirement? Who should be putting what away? Things like that. So that's another thing to consider as you are trying to reach financial freedom.
Absolutely. You want to diversify income sources. Mm-hmm. You think about that. We talk about a 3-bucket approach here where we ask our clients, or we try to direct them. You want to get tax deferred income. You want to get income that would be taxed only at capital gains. Mm-hmm. And if you qualify for it, if you don't make too much money, you want to get tax-free income like a Roth IRA. Mm-hmm. So we look for various streams of income that can get that. Also the side hustles, maybe another business, maybe an Etsy thing, mm-hmm. or things that you can do to basically make yourself not dependent on one single source of income, mm-hmm. one single source. So those today, what we've shared with you are basically 10 pitfalls that we picked out to discuss with you that would prevent you from reaching your financial goal. Hopefully you've seen that we're passionate about it. I mean, you might have picked up on some animation from Ryan because, I stayed pretty calm and cool today during this particular one. Because really nothing hit a spot with me. I'm pretty level and keen across all of them. Ryan, on the other hand, he's young. He's trying to build his maturity. He's trying to get there, and he doesn't know how to contain himself at times. So,
for those of you that are just listening and not watching, when Robert was going off on his rant, he turned beet red and a vein was sticking out of his forehead. So you don't listen to what he said. Okay.
Yeah, but we want to close with this. We want you to remember that achieving financial freedom, that's a gradual process. Mm-hmm. It will not happen overnight. You've got to have a consistent effort. You've got to be consistently learning, and you have got to be consistently adapting. You got to be mindful of these common pitfalls that we just went through, because every last one of them, any one of them, can derail you, mm-hmm. and can cost you years of trying to get back on track and getting where you want to be. You want to, when they are identified, when you see them, if some of this spoke to you directly today, you want to take the steps to begin addressing the pitfalls, get them out of your life so that you can enhance your chances of reaching your financial goal.
Yeah, yeah. And, you also said another thing. You said this journey to financial freedom, it's a slow thing. It's also a deliberate thing, because I think you told me this, you can borrow money for anything in life, mm-hmm. except retirement. So that's the one thing. Don't borrow money for that. You have to do that.
Absolutely.
But that is it for today. Thank you all for listening to the My Father Said podcast, where we discuss all things faith, finance, and family. Please pay attention. We have more episodes coming out. But in the meantime, if you want to learn more about the Templeton Group or the My Father Said podcast, you can learn more about us at our website and anywhere you listen to podcasts.
That's all you can say? You're not going to tell them who you are and what we're doing?
And I'm Ryan with the My Father Said podcast.
I am Robert. I don't know what's happening to him today. He can't control himself, and he's forgetting his lines. But anyway, we'll talk about this off camera. He's Ryan. I'm Robert. This is the My Father Said podcast. We will see you next time.
The opinions voiced in this video are for general information only and are not specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance reference is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful.